It's Entrepreneur Rap episode 21, right here on Facebook Live and also, of course, iTunes. Brett Regan, you made it.
I'm here.
From the Tarmat in New York.
Long night.
But cool, man. We ran out of advice, I think, the last 20 episodes. We want to start interviewing people that probably can give better advice. We're joined by Chris Lynch from Everyday California, and we all met each other in a local entrepreneur group. So excited to get into it, man.
So Chris Lynch from Everyday California, an ocean adventure and lifestyle brand based out of La Jolla, California. Super exciting company, and we're looking forward to hearing a lot more about it.
Cool. Stoked to be here, guys. This is awesome.
I think what fascinates me anyway is just the story. I mean, going all the way back to the upbringing, what you were like. I think a lot of entrepreneurs kind of, you can tell maybe at an early age, like I'm going to be an entrepreneur, I can't have a boss type of deal. So let's start there. Let's start from the very beginning. What was your upbringing like, your mom, dad?
Yeah, for sure. So I was born in Oakland. I was actually born in a military hospital. Both my parents were in the Navy. My mom was the second ever female Navy salvage diver.
Wow.
So if you've seen the Cuba Gooding Jr. movie, that was exactly what my mom did.
Interesting.
So I was kind of born into that adventure, water lifestyle. And then actually grew up in Modesto, California, went to high school there, ended up getting into San Diego State and decided that I was gonna move down here and never leave.
So let's back up. So you're 5 years old, 6 years old at that moment. Talk about your family life, your dad, your mom, just how they influence kind of who you are today.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, my mom would wake me up at 6 a.m. and take me water skiing,
Oh, wow.
And if we weren't going water skiing, she'd wake me up and it'd be, the middle of the school year and we'd go skiing or snowboarding. Or
now, are you skipping
whatever.
school at this point? Or
We're
just
skipping
before?
school.
All right.
Oh yeah, we're skipping school. 6 years old, whenever you start school, we're skipping it.
That's
we're going out. We're heading to the mountains. We're heading to the lake. We're out adventuring. And at that point in time, my mom actually started working in Yosemite. She was running the clinic at Yosemite National Park. So we would go up there, and I had a house as a kid in Yosemite. So back and forth from Modesto to Yosemite, hiking and climbing and kind of.
It's a very active family. You guys are
very active.
Doing a lot.
So outdoor lifestyle as a
outdoor.
kid, did that lead you to think about anything professionally when you were a kid, being in that space, or was that more of just total lifestyle?
At that point, I thought that I was going to be a doctor because I loved the lifestyle up there. I loved the doctors up there and the guys who were, not only helping people, but they were out saving people, picking them off of, Half Dome or wherever it is, and saving their lives and doing all kinds of amazing and crazy things. And I'm like, I should just be a doctor. This is the coolest thing ever. Because as a kid, I'd have my bike in Yosemite, and I'd have a radio, and I would listen in to what was going on. So if there was a rescue going on, I would ride my bike to wherever it is.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
But it sounds like all the jobs that you were looking at that you were interested in as a kid had some element of kind of adventure, or at least incredibly active.
Yeah, definitely.
So now you're talking about actually people getting to save, like helicoptered in when they're lost on a hike or some type of deal.
Yeah.
I think it's funny, that's a lot more prestigious than me. When I grew up, like I just guaranteed I was going to make it to the NBA. I guarantee, So they asked you in class all the time, like, what do you want to be when you grow up? So I want to be a professional basketball player. And like, yeah, but what do you really want to be when you grow up? So when those questions are being asked when you're a kid, you're saying, I want to be a doctor. I want to save people.
Yeah.
That's interesting. So what's your first job as a kid?
Pizza maker.
Pizza.
Yeah, pizza. 12 years old, 12, 13 years old. I would ride my bike down to the local pizza place and make pizzas.
What was the name of the joint?
Oh man, I wish I could remember. Pizza something. It wasn't It was a very creative name.
So this is
and it was attached to a video.
12's pretty young,
really
though.
Yeah. It was
running money.
I just loved
perhaps
it.
Illegal.
I loved making money.
Yeah.
It might have been illegal.
Yeah.
Attached to a video store, if you guys remember those.
Yeah.
I do.
Cassette tapes.
Blockbuster. Yeah.
And so at this point in time, obviously you're still in school. Did you enjoy school? Were you a good student?
I did. Yeah, I did like school, and I was a pretty good student. I obeyed all the rules. It's funny, I always talk about it because I never got in trouble. I never got detention. I never got anything. I was like way too good of a kid.
Yeah, we talk about that too because I think he was opposite. But
Yeah.
I was always told like respect authority no matter
Yeah.
what, even though if they were totally out of line.
Yeah.
So yeah, I might have had one detention my whole life, but
And when you look back at that, are you like glad that you had it that way?
I think there's a bunch of times where I probably should have stood up for myself. But it's like, oh, it's authority. It's the
I feel the
it's
same
the
way.
elder. Yeah.
Yeah, because I was raised that way. Like you
Yep.
listen to everything they have to say,
Yeah.
and it is what it is.
And was that your experience all the way through school and high school? I know a lot of people that I know maybe were very by the rules all the way through middle school, but then
Yeah.
in high school maybe you switched, vice versa.
All the way through high school for me,
Okay,
until college, and then college I was like, this is
that's how it goes.
what am I doing?
Well,
Gotta
yeah.
let loose at some
What
point.
Especially if you're Aztec, we know how it is.
Yeah.
What was the first entrepreneurial hustle as a kid? I remember when I was like 13, 14 years old, we bought throwback jerseys at like a swap meet and then put them on eBay and like doubled money that way or made mixed CDs or what have you.
Yeah.
But usually all entrepreneurs kind of have that first thing that you're like,
Yeah.
I can hustle this.
Mine was the old school car wash. I
Yeah,
started
yeah.
washing cars basically out in front of my my parents' house. With a little sign up, and not just washing them, but detailing them, so I could
Interesting.
charge more. So I
Yeah.
would take like 4 hours on one car, and I can't remember what I charged, but I remember it was pretty expensive.
Now is this
It's pretty
after
high-end.
this is after the pizza situation or this is
This is during the pizza situation. This is right
Situation.
around
Okay.
the same time.
So you
I'm
gotta have
making
you gotta have a side
pizzas,
hustle.
you get
You
the
can't
side.
put everything into pizza.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay.
and then is there
Exactly.
ever delegation going on with did you ever like expand to some people in the neighborhood or you
No, it was just
all
me.
you?
Just
Solo
me.
endeavor, 100%.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just cranking away.
So you go to college, San Diego State, alum as well.
Mm-hmm.
So go Aztecs. But at school, at that point, do you know I want to start a company? Are you starting to think in those terms, or are you just trying to figure
No
stuff
idea.
out? Yeah.
No idea. At some point,
And this is freshman year. You did all 4 years at State.
I did all 5 years at State.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
Super senior.
Super.
Yeah.
Now, did you live on campus the whole deal? Like
No,
dorm?
no. I lived. Well, the first year I lived on campus, I lived at Zura, the zoo.
Yep.
Amazing, crazy place. And I was still thinking that I was going to be a doctor. I was more heading towards. I wanted to be an orthopedic surgeon at that point. And so I was studying kinesiology, and I wanted to be in sports as
Yeah.
well. So I actually became one of the trainers for the San Diego State soccer team.
Interesting. Very cool.
Male or female?
Male.
Okay.
Male. And that's right at the time. I played rugby at San Diego State, and
Wow.
I got injured my freshman year.
In rugby, they do. It's not officially like a NCAA sport, but it's more of
No.
a travel team.
Yeah,
But it's
yeah.
a college team.
So
Yeah.
there's very few that are, what's it called?
officially
Officially.
because there's only so many sports NCAA.
Yeah.
that's, you can-
Yeah, and the
scholarships you
actual
can give out. Mm-hmm.
yeah, the actual scholarship rugby teams are Cal, Harvard.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
There's very few. So we weren't. We were just a club team, but playing against schools that
And
were
were you when you grew up? You played rugby as well? Like-
never.
So just when you went to State?
Yeah, because
Okay.
I played football, I played
Yeah.
basketball, I played baseball, and then ran track and played golf, and I was always playing sports.
So all through
all
Middle
through
school,
all the
high
way
school?
up through high school. Yeah,
Okay.
and I had like a few little offers to play football at tiny little schools.
What position?
Tight end, and
Okay.
and then I played.
You got some hands.
Yeah, it was more for defense though, strong safety. But that's I wanted to go to San Diego, and I knew that I wasn't going to make the NFL, nor was I probably even going to make the San Diego State football team.
yeah.
But I wanted to keep playing
Yeah.
sports, so
It's
I
a
joined the rugby
competitive thing,
team.
right?
Yeah, yeah,
Very cool.
and just kind of learned from there, which was great.
Talk about sports a little bit because I know for me growing up playing sports, just a lesson about how to. I mean, when you become a company too, there's so many different personalities to
Yeah.
deal with, and I felt like sports was for me anyway, a great way to. You have a coach that you hate, but you have to find a way to put your head down and get it, or a teammate that you just
Yeah.
don't get along with. Do you see yourself going back to those moments even now?
Oh yeah, that's
Yeah.
discipline. I mean, I completely take a lot of my discipline comes from like the old school, my high
Yeah.
school football coach.
Yep.
My high school football coach was gnarly. I mean, he was a crazy guy. But when I left, we had started a winning streak. We went When I left, we were 20-something and 0. We won the state championship for California. We were number one.
What
team.
division were you guys in?
We were
then?
D3.
D3. Okay.
And then
This is in Modesto.
this was Modesto. Yeah, they went on to win 70, 80 game win
Jeez.
streak,
Huh.
something like
So
that.
the coach knew what he was doing. He had a good X's and O's
Oh
strategy.
man, yeah.
Yeah.
One of the best in the country, really. I think we end up, and possibly my high school might still have the second longest winning streak behind De La Salle.
Yeah.
So
So they actually recruit people at that level at your high school, or just
yeah, everybody,
Yeah.
looking back now, you're always
Yeah, yeah.
defending it because it was a private school, it was Central Catholic.
okay.
And
Because De La Salle and Centennial and all those, you see them every year. They're always towards the top.
every year.
That's because they're like, hey, why don't
Yeah,
you-
why don't you come over here and
Yeah.
play? And I don't know if I would call it recruiting, but it's, I went to a public school my freshman year of high school, and it just wasn't for me. My parents had wanted to send me to this private school, and I went in between my freshman and sophomore year, and I did meet the football coaches, but it was about the school too. But then they're also like, by the way, our football team is awesome, and introduced
If you
me
wanna-
to
yeah.
another guy who was coming in, who was a quarterback, and introduced me to another guy that was coming in. These guys, they put together a very good team, but at the same time, that took my academics to a whole nother level. I wasn't taking academics as seriously at the public school.
Yeah, so that was a pretty abrupt shift to go mid-year to a new school, or was it in between?
In between,
Okay.
in the summer, yeah. But I
But-
started practicing. Actually, I believe I started practicing with the football team like in the spring. I had almost already decided that I was going to.
But the
Make
shifting
that
of
move.
schools, that wasn't based on a move or anything. That was just
No.
not feeling where you were in high school. And
Yeah,
deciding to
my
try
high
something
school,
different.
the public school I was at was bad. I mean, we're talking bars over the windows, and they lock you in, and it was just kind of not really for me.
Okay.
And I was fortunate enough that my parents had the means to send me to a private school.
And then when you made that shift, academics really took off.
Academics took off. I mean, I wasn't bad at the public school, 3.0, something like that. But then I got to the private school, and it was all about getting into college and doing well. And my grades went from like 3.0 to like 3.8 or 4.0, and trying. It was cool to get A's. It was not cool to get A's
Yeah.
in public school.
And I feel like with sports too, there was a few situations, and maybe you agree with this, where I could have gotten into some fights, but I'm like, if I get in a fight, I'm gonna get suspended, or I can't play
Yeah.
basketball or football. So that's where it kind of goes back to sports. I feel like sometimes it kind of keeps you grounded, or
Totally.
what have you. So let's talk about college a little bit more. So you're at San Diego State. At this point, you're still going the doctor route.
Yeah.
In college, at some point, does that shift to?
Yeah, it's shifted when I became one of the trainers for the soccer team, and it was very different for me going from being used to being the athlete to being the athlete's bitch.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I didn't enjoy it.
And
I
even
was
on the
taping
soccer
ankles,
team, it was like that.
Even on the soccer team,
Okay.
I'm taping ankles and I'm doing everything I can, and they're like, rub me out, stretch me. I'm
Well,
like,
you know what?
and I'm like, you know what? I don't know if this is for me,
Yeah.
really. And it was probably a pride thing at that point too, but I was still, young, 20 years old, maybe 21 years old. And I decided, I was like, I don't know if I want to do this.
Yeah.
Like, even if I make it all the way up, to become, the doctor, I don't know how I'm going to like this situation.
I feel like every entrepreneur has that moment because, him and I actually met at a restaurant, bussing tables in college when
Nice.
I went to State. He went to UCSD. But same deal. It's like, hey, can you clean this table? Hey, someone threw up in the bathroom. Can you clean
Yeah.
it up? And it's like you have that moment like, I'm a bitch to somebody, essentially, like you mentioned. And I think there's a switch there where you're like, I don't want to have to answer to, and it looks like you went through that same situation.
I didn't want to have to answer to anybody.
Exactly.
And
Yeah.
at 20 years old, at what point in college are you? Sophomore?
Junior.
Okay. So
Yeah,
by
I
junior
started
year,
at San
you
Diego
started
State at 17.
to. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
So, but at that point, junior year, you'd been going through the kinesiology program.
Yeah, and so I believe your third year is when you get put onto, like a team, and you're actually, because you've been practicing enough and you've been, taping enough ankles and all that good stuff that you're ready to go.
Okay.
And I left. I quit mid-season I might have
that's
quit
enough.
like 3 games in. I was like, no, not doing it. Just not going to do it.
Yeah. So then
Changed majors.
Yeah. So
like
changed
that.
majors. So what major
Yeah.
did you change to?
Economics.
Okay.
Yeah. I had an economics class, I believe like that the year before or something like that, and it fascinated me. I was fascinated with economics. I like love it. Like one of my favorite books to this day is still Freakonomics.
Yeah.
And I just started. I just switched my major, changed my classes, went straight into an econ major, and like loved it. I mean, even my grades. Like I got a 4.0 for like the next 2 years, because like economics and
It is amazing, like when you
statistics
actually,
and, like,
you enjoy what you're learning. It just becomes so much easier.
it
to
was
get
yeah,
better
I loved
at
it. It was easy to
Yeah.
me all of a sudden. Like
Yeah.
even like doing statistical analysis, I'm like, this is great. I'm like writing, you know.
So economics requires a lot of foundational math and then all the way up through some advanced calculus stuff.
Yeah.
With your prior major, was that involved? Did you have to kind of go back to the starting board a little bit with math?
I had a lot of the I guess your GEs done.
Okay.
Because, you know, I was only a junior, so I feel like your freshman and sophomore year is a lot of general education and still kind of figuring it out. But definitely that's why I went 5 years, because I did have to go back and retake some classes or take some different classes that I wasn't in before. I also traveled abroad though. I went on semester at sea. If you guys have heard of it.
Oh, yeah.
That's the one thing I wish I
think,
would have done. Yeah.
Did Road Rules do
Yeah, they did.
season at semester at
They
sea?
did. They did a semester at sea.
Yeah. I recall the end of it where it showed everybody's grades.
It's just,
And they were
so it's
all
actually like
terrible.
a Navy ship that you go on, or what?
No, this was
It's like a cruise
it's a
ship.
Oh,
cruise
cruise.
ship.
Like
yeah.
it's basically a booze cruise with classes.
Yeah,
That's hilarious.
it is amazing.
Wow.
400 college students.
And where's this at? Like where are you?
So the students are from
docking?
all over the world, but primarily the U.S. And so I flew from San Diego to the Bahamas and hopped on the
That's
boat
crazy.
in the Bahamas. I was 20, so this would have been my junior year after I had
Okay.
changed my major. Flew to the Bahamas and hopped on a cruise ship with 400 other college students and took classes. And every time you'd be on the boat, you would be in class. But then when you land somewhere, they just let you off the boat. Like,
Wow.
hey guys, here's Brazil. Welcome.
This is all co-ed.
Go
involved.
wherever you
Yeah.
want, do whatever you want. The only rule is don't leave Brazil and be back on the boat in 7 days.
Yeah.
Seven.
And even 20 is an adult, but still 400 20-year-olds.
Oh,
it's
just-
almost irresponsible to just let them into a foreign
Yeah.
Let
country.
us go. But you learn so much. My business partner actually went on semester at sea as well.
Same time or
Different time,
Okay.
but he's the one who actually convinced me. He's a little bit older than me, and he convinced me when we met. He was like, you have to do this thing. You have to go on semester at sea. It's incredible. And I don't know how I convinced my parents to like let me do this and pay for it. I was begging them, and I mean, to this day, it's shaped who I am because of all the things I saw and did. I mean, at 20 years old, I was on a riverboat trip down the Amazon. I went to the Taj Mahal in India. I went to the Great Wall in China. I went to Myanmar before it was even open to anybody from the U.S. We were on like a special student visa. I went to Hong Kong. I went to...
Is this since it's a California state school? Is there some type of program, or is it just a big chunk of money everybody has to put towards it?
So it's sponsored, when I was there, it was sponsored by the University of Virginia. And it goes, and before that, it was sponsored by the University of Colorado, Boulder.
but credits transferred.
Credits
it was totally
transferred.
legit college experience.
Totally legit. And the professors are amazing, by the way. I mean, you're talking Harvard level professors from all over the country.
Seems like an easy pitch to a professor.
Oh, yeah. Do you want to, yeah, because they travel the world.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
want to travel the world and teach international law. It was one of my classes. It was, the classes are super interesting too, and you're learning about each country before you get to that country.
So you talked about earlier when you were with your parents doing some skiing and like quick day trips. Did you do a lot of travel as a kid, or was this really your first experience doing?
This
long
was really
distance
my first
international?
like international experience. My parents had traveled because they were in the Navy, but as a kid it was more Hawaii, Mexico vacations, which are awesome.
Yeah.
But this was my first real experience.
And did that, you feel like that kind of turn a switch in you?
Completely.
Okay.
Yeah.
The
Absolutely.
international travel. I hear that from most people that do at some point in their young 20s some sort of international, it really does kind of shape the way you think about the rest of your life.
Yeah, completely changed it.
At that point in time, you'd already decided that you didn't want to do the surgeon route.
Yeah.
Had you already made a decision on what was next from there, or this was kind of in that in-between stage where you were trying to figure it out?
Once I got into economics, I was all about finance, all about that money. And started working for Wachovia. My dad is a financial advisor and had been for a long time.
At Wachovia?
My dad had his own brokerage in Northern California. And I started working at Wachovia for another financial advisor, and then left that job because I got an opportunity with a hedge fund broker dealer. So I was actually a research analyst intern for a hedge fund, which was a whole nother level. I mean, I was so confused. I thought I was smart, and these guys, I don't know. And at the same time, I don't know if anybody else knew what was going on. Like, there's definitely guys there who were like, I don't know what I'm doing here.
Yeah.
Just BSing their way through.
Yeah.
And this is all while you're still at San Diego State?
This is all while I'm still at San Diego
Interning.
State.
Okay, so interning there.
Yeah.
So I liked what your website said. You guys said in 2008, the Great Recession hits, but it was the best thing that ever happened to you because you lost all hope of graduating college, and essentially you're sitting there kind of in no man's land. So that allowed you guys, after graduation, you did a few internships. It seems like I graduated 09, it looks like you graduated 08, but that was a pretty rough time for all graduates.
Oh yeah, so I'm chugging along at the hedge fund. I have interviews lined. I graduate, I've got interviews with Bloomberg, I've got interviews with Lehman Brothers, I've got all these big bank interviews. It's possible that I might stay at the hedge fund.
So many options, you're going to land somewhere.
I'm like, all is good. Bloomberg actually flew me up to San Francisco and interviewed me and was talking about having me work out of the New York office, and I'm going to move to Wall Street. And I'm like,
it's all good.
I'm set. It's all good. I'm got this finance route, and took off. Went to Bali for like a month after I graduated. Came back, and all of a sudden the world ended. The market crashed. Lehman Brothers, who I had met with, went bankrupt. And Bloomberg started laying people off. I mean, every single one of my opportunities.
there was like a hiring freeze essentially everywhere at that point.
Yeah, it was over at that point.
More than that, shedding jobs.
Yeah.
Because at that point in time, you're not just competing with the college class, you're competing with people that had 15, 20 years of experience.
Well, you were saying because you were in financial
business.
services around that same time, or?
So 2010, 11, which was still, people were still at that point shedding jobs.
Yeah.
But I remember going to a Merrill advisor recruiting session.
Yeah.
And there were people that had a huge book of business
From Princeton.
that had been laid off from, WAMU or Wachovia and were ready to bring a bunch of money to any firms that were available. So it was, very difficult for somebody who was just starting out to try and get even entry-level stuff.
Yeah, exactly. So with, it does say that on our website, 2008 was the greatest thing that ever happened. But there is a time period in between there. We didn't just graduate, market crash, and then all of a sudden we just started this company.
Right.
I actually moved to Hollywood. And I don't know if I've told you guys this before, but I moved from San Diego to Hollywood. I had been doing a little bit of modeling back in my heyday, my younger day. And my agent
We're actually going to bring up a headshot.
Yes.
My agent at the time said, why don't you just go to, I'll send you this acting school and you give it a shot. And I talked to my parents. I'm like, I don't really have any other opportunities here. There's no jobs for me. I can't go back to school right now. Like, I can't get my MBA.
What's the emotion at that point though? Are you angry? Are you
frustrated, angry?
Because you had this vision, I'm sure, I'm gonna go, I have all these options, I'm gonna go wherever I want, I'm gonna move to New York, and it's just you had no options at that point.
Confused, I think, too. 22 years old, right out of school, thinking I'm gonna go right into the job force and all.
So did you have to pick up a part-time job to just make a living at that point?
Yeah, absolutely. I moved to Hollywood and I was working at a gym, and I was surviving off of working at a gym.
Yeah.
And getting acting gigs and modeling gigs here and there, and I was going to acting school 3 days a week, and that was my life. I was living 2 blocks from Hollywood.
That's when too you just have to live with 4 people in a house and have $500 rent and figure it out.
You're just figuring it out.
Yeah.
And 2 blocks from the Stars, Hollywood Boulevard.
Okay.
It's just fully in it.
Which, by the way, I mean, the movie industry has this glamorized Hollywood. How this by the Stars is usually not an amazing area to sit down and live too. It's there's some.
I remember my first experience when I came out to LA with my dad. I really wanted to see the Hollywood theater, Chinese theater, and the first thing I saw was a hooker in a wheelchair, and I was just like, "Whoa, this is not what I expected." I thought it'd be a lot more glitzy, or there'd be a red carpet event, and it's just like, a sweaty, dirty Chewbacca and a few other people in
bad
Spider-Man.
Yeah. And LA too. I mean, out of college too, to kind of make it, I was still, working at restaurants, and same deal. Every server there is getting acting gigs, and then at night they're serving, and especially in LA, everybody they go there to try to make it type deal. So it's
and you're just waiting for your opportunity, your big break. Yeah. So I almost had my big break. I came this close.
Let's hear about it.
So I was on set with Zach Galifianakis and Paul Rudd for Dinner for Schmucks. And this is actually where I got my SAG card, where I became SAG eligible.
Nice.
And the director picked me out of the crowd.
And this is crowd
extras.
Yeah, to be in a scene with Steve Carell. And I'm like, this is it. I'm done. Like, I've made it. If I'm going to be, have my small part.
Now, how's it happen? Does the director look over like, hey, you, why don't you come over? And,
he literally lined all of us guys up and was like, that guy.
Interesting.
And I'm like, yes.
And that's you could get SAG card as long as you have a speaking role in a film, essentially, right?
Exactly. So I don't even remember what they were going to have me say. They wanted me to say it was 1 or 2 lines, but I mean 1 or 2 like hello,
Yeah. What's up, man?
And it was something about because we were in a taxidermy shop, and I met Steve Carell in the back, who I'm sure is a very nice guy. But the PAs warned me that he stays in character when he's on set.
Huh.
And
Daniel Day-Lewis type of deal.
Yeah, and so he was playing this really weird character. So he was a bit strange, but whatever. And then, I was buying a stuffed taxidermy head. It was like a goat or something.
Now, was the person they were supposed to have scheduled not show up or something? Or
no, I guess they just wanted this.
They wanted to add the
Yeah,
scene.
they wanted to add this thing.
Gotcha.
So they ended up dropping any of the lines, and then they had me next to him, and I was buying this thing, and I was walking out of the door with him or whatever the scene was, and they cut the entire thing. So it never even, they filmed it and it never even.
Now, when do you find that out? When you
don't. It's,
you're watching it in theaters.
With everybody. Yeah, I'm not getting an invite to
to the screening.
Yeah.
So at what point? So you graduate in 2008?
I graduated in 2008. Yeah.
Okay, so all this is happening probably in a 6-month period for you.
No, 2008, 2009.
Okay.
2010. Yeah, I spent 2.5, 3 years in Hollywood.
But so officially out of college, your first actual career path at that time was Hollywood, acting, modeling, something. Be famous.
That's a pretty amazing.
Model.
You go from want to be a doctor, and then you go to financial services and econ, then Hollywood actor.
Straight to Hollywood.
That's just
you got to be flexible,
Yeah.
You just got to roll with it.
Man of many talents.
Yeah. But I will say that was my grad school. Hollywood was 100% my grad school. Going to acting class 3 days a week, pulling yourself outside of that comfort zone, performing in front of people, acting on stage, acting in film. They make you sing, they make you dance, they make you do everything. One of the greatest experiences of my life.
And just because it made you more outgoing.
Well, I'm sure when you're pitching or you're in a meeting with people, it's like, I've done this 2,000 times.
It makes you so much more confident.
Yeah.
I mean, you're so much more confident after you've cried on stage in front of 100 people. You don't really
who cares if anybody thinks I'm weird?
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. That's why this weekend we talked about I'm doing Sing Dance Crawl, and myself. Yep.
SDC.
Did you guys hear that? Yeah. And I'm doing Backstreet Boys. I Want It That Way with 2 buddies. It's going to be insane.
So how does that even come about? Did you pitch this idea or somebody said?
No, we just signed up.
That's fun.
Like 10 people perform.
It's like a say what karaoke type of.
It's live band karaoke.
Nice.
But you got to go all out. We've rented a dance studio, and we've been practicing for a while.
You got to practice your craft. You can't just go out there and wing it. You know?
Yeah, if you're gonna do it, do it. I saw a vocal coach yesterday.
Wow.
You got to go all in. You know?
So this is karaoke style though. They're just gonna play the instrumental and go for it.
Yeah.
So, but before you went to LA,
can we stay on Backstreet Boys for a little bit?
But did you consider yourself?
If you want me to do some of the moves,
yeah. So what's the 2-step?
But did you consider yourself an outgoing person at that point? I feel like if you're confident enough to move to Hollywood and already be kind of in the modeling scene, you've got to have at least some sort of confidence in your looks or abilities. Did it totally change how you were, or was it more of just kind of
It was a gradual
accelerating?
It was a gradual shift.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I was fairly confident, but after going to Hollywood and going through all of that, it made me much, much more comfortable in my own skin.
Because correct me if I'm wrong, were you homecoming king or something like that?
I was.
Yeah, see?
Wow.
So this stuff kind of,
man.
you know, it starts
It shapes
to
you,
build on itself. So
Yeah.
I think, it takes a lot of, unless you're really consider yourself like an actor
Yeah.
and loving the craft, you have to either have that part of it or you've just got to be like really confident.
I wish I would
wanting
have
to go to Hollywood.
done it earlier, to be honest with you. Looking back on it, I wish I would have started the acting earlier, but it just wasn't cool where I grew up. You know, like you're not on the football team and part of the theater club.
Yeah.
You just don't do that.
I agree.
Maybe had I grown up in Southern California, or maybe now, you know, the 80s and 90s, it's just not what you did.
I agree. I think, in high school, you're so worried about your clique and what's cool and all that, like, even if you were, hey, I'd love to be in that play, it's like, jocks don't do that, so I'm not going to do that.
Exactly.
I will say, like, right out of college, too, I was always, one thing that drove me, it's kind of weird, was going to family reunions and your uncles ask you, like, so what's going on? What's the latest? And I wondered for you during that 3-year period, you're trying to get acting gigs. You kind of maybe you have that same update every family reunion.
Yeah.
Did that drive you to want to do more? Like during that 3-year stretch, was it kind of much of the same update?
That, to be honest, that was a dark period for me. I think because I had gone from being fairly successful at what I was doing and on the road to working hard, and Hollywood is about hard work. It is a lot of people who make it, everybody who makes it, I think almost, is a hard worker, and they're smart, and it's not easy, but it's so much luck. It's so much luck involved where you walk up one day and the director goes, that guy. Or you have a good audition and they wanted a guy who had blonde hair, but they decided, you know.
You look at Bryan Cranston's story of Breaking Bad, obviously Walter White becomes one of the best, characters of all time, but that was because Vince Gilligan had worked with him on one episode of The X-Files back in 1983, and when he's writing the script for Breaking Bad, like, it would be good.
Yeah.
It's just like little stuff like that, like, how do you
Totally.
can't predict that.
You
shit,
can't. You can't.
So that's interesting. So talk about the dark time though. So you're going through it and you're waiting for that big break, but you have no control over it, right?
You got no control over it. You're making no money.
Yeah.
You're struggling with everybody else though.
Yeah.
And at that point in time, I decided that I needed to do something. I couldn't see myself just grinding it out for another, who knows, 10 years.
Yeah, you don't know if it's going to happen today or it's going to happen in 10 years.
But did Clooney get discovered at 32, 33, something like that? He'd already been in Hollywood for a decade.
And that's that entrepreneurial mindset I think a lot of people listening probably understand is type A personality. I have no control over the situation, and it kind of drives you nuts, which usually drives you into what can I control?
Drove me nuts.
Right.
So I started studying for the GMAT, and I was going to go get my MBA. I figured my experience now was different than most people. I say, I've got my degree, and then I spent 2 years at this point going to acting school and hearing no consistently at auditions, and I was going to write. That was going to be my, thesis of like why should I go to grad school? And I was studying to do the GMAT, and at that point in time, that is when Mike, my now business partner, called me and said, "Hey, you remember that that kayaking company that we worked at in college? It's for sale. Do you want to buy it?
Interesting.
And you know, I looked at that opportunity, and I talked to my parents, and it was kind of like, well, do I go to grad school, and that's going to cost
right
$100 grand,
Yeah.
200 grand, depending upon where you go, or do we try and start this business? I remember my mom being like, yes, let's just do this,
Yeah.
you know, go for it.
I believe in you.
Yeah, and my
Yeah.
dad was kind of like, you are crazy.
Yeah.
Like, you should probably go to grad school. Like, let's just keep it on that path. And we're fortunate enough to make the decision that I was gonna buy this company. And when I say company, that's a very loose term. Essentially, what we purchased was a permit to operate. So in the city of San Diego, anything that happens on the beach, you need a permit for. Now in La Jolla, there's 5 permits to operate, and so one of the permits to do kayaking.
Now, how'd you get that opportunity? Because you think that would be like priceless goods that a lot of people would be going after once that person says, I'll sell it.
Yeah.
Right?
So I, not so much when we came in 2010. We started negotiating in September of 2010. They went to my business partner, who was basically managing the kayak shop at that point.
So he'd stayed working on.
He was in the same boat as me. He went and he got
pun
his
intended.
MBA in Australia, and then he graduated 2008. So, like I said, he's
kinda in
about
that gray
5 years
area,
older
yeah.
than me.
Okay.
Yeah.
So he had got his MBA, and he came back, and he's like,
What am I doing?
"What am I doing?
Yeah.
The entire economy is down." So he went back to the kayak shop that we were working at, and he's managing the kayak shop and living on the beach, and he didn't know what he wanted to do either. So the owners had overextended themselves and opened up a whole bunch of stores, bought a boat that they were doing dive tours on. I don't know if their relationship, I think, was kind of turning. So they wanted out, and at the same time, they were being sued by one of their competitors to be forced out of their location.
So this was like fire sale.
There
let's
was
get
just
out.
everything that could have happened, unfortunately, happened.
Puts you guys in a good position.
Put us in a good position. So we do all this negotiations with the owners. We have no money, you know. I'm working at a gym, and I'm living in Hollywood going to acting school.
So anything you get, you're gonna have to kind of beg, borrow, and steal to make
Exactly,
money, right?
exactly. So at the time, I believe myself and my business partner, we came up with about 15 grand a person, and gave everything we had to the previous owners, and put together a 10-year buyout agreement.
Interesting.
Yeah, that was tiered. So this agreement.
So $30,000 up front, and then a 10-year payment plan, essentially.
Yeah.
And so what was the total purchase price of the license?
Well, it depends, because we had it done for the entire 10-year period. So what we would do is we would pay them a percentage of gross receipts over a 10-year period.
Okay. And
it was that percentage would drop. So the first year was 10%, second year was 10%, third year was 8%, and it tiered all the way down to, I believe, like year 10 was 2% or 3%.
Gotcha.
And so do you consider that a good deal that you locked into?
Yeah,
Okay.
I think so.
So if you'd had all the cash in the world, whatever you could have paid up front, you still feel like
You know, we
through the
might have been
profit
able to
share-
get it. It's hard to say at this point. You know, if we had all the cash in the world, would we have been able to pay them less than we paid them over time? Possibly.
That's pretty impressive, though. So you had probably some lawyers, obviously, all on it. But I remember just being younger, making some bad decisions on contracts and deals and partnerships. So it seemed like you were able to kind of hit a home run a little bit on that first official business deal.
Yeah, I mean, it worked out for us. It got us in the door.
Yeah.
Really. That contract ended up costing us a lot of money. But last year, one of the permits sold for double what we paid for the life of our contract.
That's awesome.
So
can you describe what that license actually gives you? Is it a certain number of boats?
yeah, exactly. So what it does is for kayaking in La Jolla, and this is the same thing for most of the coastal cities in California, and I think on the East Coast as well, there's permits to do everything. So if you run a surf camp in San Diego or Huntington Beach or Santa Monica or wherever, the city grants a certain amount of permits to do those surf camps, so that not everybody is running around opening up surf camps.
Yeah, so if him and I open up a surf camp right now, like, all right, guys, let's all go to the Hoya Cove and let's hop out there, that wouldn't be
Can't
legal.
do it. Yeah, it would be illegal, and the lifeguards would kick you out, shut you down, and fine you. So our permit allows us to operate a certain, because we do kayaking, it's a little different for us. We're allowed to operate 12 kayak tours per day.
Okay.
Yeah.
It makes sense, because if not, there might be 94 kayak tours going out in the same.
And there used to be, because kayaking wasn't a permitted thing. So it was kind of like the Wild West before we got in. You know, when I was working there in college, it was the Wild West.
And San Diego's finding themselves in a similar situation with like boot camps for exercise, because
CrossFit
for a
type,
long time it was
Yeah.
just, you couldn't go to the beach or a park in Mission Bay without having to like compete with your, picnic with 15 boot camps going on and people screaming.
Yeah.
But now I think they've permitted that whole process as well.
Well, even in our business park, you see people like running laps with like a medicine ball over their head. It's like at some point there has to be.
It's like Exercise City, USA.
Yeah.
So 08 though, so you guys purchased a license. At that point, do you know you want to do kayak tours? Are you trying to run the kayak shop at that point?
Yeah, so this
What's the business plan?
is 2010. Negotiations started September 2010.
Okay.
We closed the deal November 1, 2010, and we officially owned the permit. The owners were kicked out of the store that they had since 1995, and Mike and I were given a pickup truck, some kayaks, some old shitty scuba diving gear.
This all came with the deal, huh?
Yeah, some old gear, some torn wetsuits, and that's about it.
Wow.
That was what we
pretty much
received.
the value is the permit.
The value is the permit, but here you go. Here's your
Yeah.
equipment. You can operate now. And we had no location. We had the pickup truck. We had a cell phone.
So did you guys have like the business plan already at that point kind of written out, or then once you got the license, like, all right, how are we going to double down on this puppy and
No,
get
because
going?
for us at the time, it was like, well,
We know it's an asset, right?
we know it's an asset, and we know that people want to go out in the water in San Diego. At the time, they were selling a lot of Groupons. So we said, well, we'll run another Groupon deal. We don't really have a website yet. We don't have anything.
With the idea of you and your business partner running all the tours, obviously, because you don't have employees, you don't have any.
No, we were doing everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. We were doing everything from answering the phones to making the reservations to driving in the morning to pick up the kayaks to drop them on the beach and then having people come in and
Because you were
checking them
storing the
in.
kayaks somewhere else.
Yeah, we had a storage unit. We had a storage unit in Sorrento Valley. So if anybody's familiar with San Diego, we're in La Jolla Shores, and the closest storage unit, because this is La Jolla, is in Sorrento Valley.
Wow.
So we're a 45-minute drive because of traffic and trying to get out of the beach
Yeah.
to go in the morning to pick up our kayaks from a storage unit and then drive them on the freeway. You should see this old shitty truck that we have with a rope tied around all these kayaks down to the beach.
So any trailer, or this is all just
No
in the
trailer,
flatbed?
just
Okay.
Well, and
pickup truck.
cash flow is so priceless at that point in time too that you can't afford to have the biggest and brightest storage unit or the closest proximity. I mean,
there is none.
Yeah, not
there is
La
none.
Jolla,
This is just the closest storage unit we could get.
that's interesting.
So yeah, we're just running boats back and forth, working out of a surf shop. We were thankfully the previous owners had introduced us, and we knew the owner of a place called La Jolla Surf Systems, an old surf shop that's been there for years, and he was gracious enough to let us operate out of his surf shop.
That's cool.
And what was the rent to him
So we didn't pay him rent. What happened was our customers and our clients who were going on tours would check in with us at his surf shop.
Okay.
So
he was seeing some sales.
So he was seeing sales. He was renting wetsuits to people that, well, we were renting the wetsuits to them, but he was making the money on the wetsuits. People who are buying, waterproof cameras, or they're coming in and they're shopping in his surf shop and then going out on a kayak tour with
Now,
us.
the first 3 to 6 months of any company, cash is tight, obviously. How do you, at that point, how are you guys living, buying food, paying rent? Well, I'm sure it took a few months to start getting that revenue.
Yeah, when I first moved down, I was living on a buddy's couch.
Yeah.
Yeah. I remember I moved down. So we closed on November 1st. I still had, my job. I was finishing my job in Hollywood. I had a bunch of stuff I had to do. So I wasn't able to move down until December 18th or something like that, like a month and a half later.
But this is probably not prime time for
it's not right.
kayaking.
No. At this point, it's very slow. It's not a lot of action going on. I get down, move onto a buddy's couch, and you're right. Like we were making no money.
Yeah.
I borrowed money from my parents basically, and whatever else I had left, tips, and anybody who was paying us in cash, we'd just be like, "Oh, we got $100.
Yeah.
Here's $50.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Sounds familiar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but at this point, describe your overhead, because so far it sounds like you've got a storage unit as overhead,
Storage unit.
and then
the pickup
maybe
truck's
whatever you're
paid
doing,
for.
maybe whatever
Gas.
you're doing on Groupon.
Gas. Yeah. The pickup truck, gas. I mean, I think my cell phone was still on my parents.
Right.
There really was no overhead. I mean, I don't even know. I mean, I think we had insurance. I'm pretty sure we had insurance.
Yeah.
We have to with the city, but we might not have. I mean,
And
we
so
were just,
but you didn't have any
West.
immediate payments to. I'm assuming you borrowed the money, at least your portion,
Yes.
to put down your $15K.
Yeah.
But you didn't have any immediate payments due on that money. That wasn't.
No.
Okay.
No.
So you had pretty good terms on however you got that money.
Yeah. The immediate payments to the previous owners were started in 2011. So we took over in November of 2010. So we didn't owe them money until essentially February of 2011. So we had like a 3-month runway there. And we would look back and see how much we did in January, and we would pay them 10%.
What's your honest mindset at this point? Are you all in, like, dude, this is going to be great. Eventually, we're going to make a ton of money. Or was it like, I had this acting thing going on. I could be doing my master's. Like, is there any doubt?
No, I
at
was
that
100%
all
in at that point. And I think you
Which
have
I think
to
you have
be.
to,
Yeah. We were 100% in.
You almost have to have that blind faith in order to, like, live on a couch and, like, split $100. And,
Well, and you knew at that point in time, obviously, this isn't like an infinitely scalable business because you're restricted to whatever the license allows you.
Yes.
At that point in time, what would you have considered that particular company being successful? Was it just to get enough where you're
$1,000
feeding?
Yeah.
a day.
So just like feeding yourself.
$1,000 a day was like, we are killing.
Yeah.
it.
So
Like,
360
we are making so much
365K
money right now.
gross.
Yeah. We're like, $1,000 a day, man. Can you imagine how much money?
That's what,
Perfect. Yeah, because
Yeah.
I mean, then you're at least looking at something that's realistic. But did you
Yeah.
have? I'm always curious to know: was there like a very specific roadmap of benchmarks that you were going to be hitting at the 3 and 6 mark, or was it pretty much just like dig in every single day, figure it out, and do the best you can?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Just dig in and see what happens. Keep working, and hope for the best. There was really no plan. I mean, it was just survive.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah, I tell this story about him sometimes. When we first started a company, it's like, man, if I could just make $2,000 a month, I could pay my rent's $1,000, have a little bit of money, buy some clothes, get some food, and that's like, in the beginning, it's just like, if I can find a way to pay my bills at that point, it's little, but and
Just-
live,
Yeah.
and not have to pick up a part-time job or wipe tables or whatever. Like I will be.
Yeah,
all
self-sufficient
gravy.
from your own
Yeah.
company
Devices.
that's operating,
Yeah.
and you're paying rent and feeding yourself
Yeah.
as a baseline. That's initially, obviously,
life.
that wasn't the long-term goal, but in the
Yeah.
short term, that alone
Yep.
seemed like, man, wouldn't it be incredible to just replace my previous shit income?
Yeah. I don't have to wipe tables anymore.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think to that point too, you start off with our blind faith was a little bit different too. I think we're gonna pitch all these people and we're immediately gonna make all this money and here's our projections, and you get humbled a little bit after those first few calls. Like, we're not gonna pay any of that.
We had like a 6-week plan where all of a sudden we're in the money, and it did not work out that way.
So tell me about Everyday California. So I guess what's your elevator pitch that you tell people? Because I know you have a lifestyle brand now, but it starts off as just the kayak tours.
It starts off as just the kayak tours, and it's not even called Everyday California at the time.
Are you guys LLC at this point, or none
yes,
of that
we're an
stuff?
LLC, and we're operating under the name OEX, which stands for Ocean Enterprise Express. That name came from the previous owners. And we operated under that name because we had purchased their permit.
You bought the license too, or
exactly.
Yeah.
So, as far as the city of San Diego is concerned, we are still OEX.
Interesting.
We're just two, new young guys who are running it.
Yep.
And I don't even think at the time the city knew really. I think we were all very hesitant to can you buy this? Is this an asset you can sell? Like, will the city approve? Like this, I'm 24 years old. They're like, are they gonna let this 24-year-old guy? Like, so we're operating under that name, and we operate under that name for 2 years. And that was a blessing and a curse. I wanted to come in and change the name like right away.
Marketing standpoint.
Yeah, marketing standpoint, and turn it into a brand. And we're gonna be this, because I had all these aspirations of, we're gonna be this huge, surf brand, and we're going to compete with Hurley, and we're going to be like Quicksilver, and we're going to do all this cool stuff. And I had all these really bad names that we were going to call the company. And
can you rattle off a few of the bad names if you remember them?
Yeah, Shuby, Wahole, which we ended up using down the road for the juice bar.
That's funny.
Oh man, there was a laundry list of bad names that just were thrown
now
around.
the LLC that you purchased from them, how was the brand loyalty at that point? Did people?
There was no brand loyalty.
So that nobody really recognized it or knew about it. Like you weren't getting repeat customers that came, like that type of deal.
I guess that's unfair to say. There was a bit of brand loyalty. There were some people, but the brand loyalty wasn't for the kayaking. It was for scuba diving.
Gotcha.
Because the company started as a scuba diving.
And you guys
company.
were killing that at that point.
We were still doing scuba diving.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
And were either of you certified in scuba?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Prior to starting this?
Prior to. Yeah,
really?
Prior to. Because my mom was a diver, so I got certified a long time ago. And we were leading guided scuba diving tours as well. We stopped doing those about 2 years into the business, though. It was one of those 80% of your problems are coming from 20% of your business. Yeah. Scuba diving is a really difficult business to operate. There's so many moving parts. It's very dangerous, and the profit margins are just very, very slim.
So I'm hoping you had insurance at that point in time.
We had insurance at that point.
Yeah.
I mean, if somebody comes up too quick, essentially, they can blow their eardrums out, the whole deal. It's a lot of liability.
The bends. I mean, there's so much liability involved in it. Much different from kayaking.
So go ahead.
So we've talked about where you're at. This is, you're still in between Hollywood and San Diego. Mm-hmm. You're in the winter months, but this is a very seasonal business.
Yes.
So can you describe that first real season of, being in business and the beginning of the scale of your company?
Yeah, I mean, we started to scale immediately. We weren't paying ourselves, but in that first summer, we had sold so many Groupons, thousands and thousands and thousands of Groupons and living social vouchers and all that stuff, that we ended up having, I want to say, 12 to 15 employees our first year.
Wow.
Wow. We had a little tiny shop. We got out of the surf shop. 6 months into starting the company, we found a 500 square foot shop that was a real estate office, and went in ourselves with sledgehammers and everything and busted down the walls and turned it into a little kayak shop and started hiring people, and we had payroll all of a sudden, and we had bills to pay, and it got pretty scary and pretty real, very quickly. It was a fun.
I thought we were able to hold out like a year before we had to get official employees. We use a lot of contractors, but I can't imagine onboarding 15 employees in the first 6 months.
Well, and I'm assuming that these are all
scary.
part-time, seasonal employees.
Yeah, and most of them like my age. You know, I'm 20. Like I said, at the time, I'm 25 at the time now, and we're hiring all these guys and girls who are 22, 23, or whatever. They all go to San Diego State. I just graduated like a couple of years prior.
And so, were you able to get away with pretty close to minimum wage at that point when you were hiring people?
Oh, minimum wage.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. 100% minimum wage. Yeah. I mean, you think about what we do. People don't become kayak tour guides or do stand-up paddle boarding or surfing instruction to make a ton of money.
Something to do in the summertime.
Exactly. You're living on the beach. You're having an awesome time. You're getting tips. It's a lifestyle job, so we're still we pay a little bit better than minimum wage now, but it's a lifestyle job. It's not, you don't come to make a ton of money.
And so the employees are responsible for doing the tours themselves?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So basically that's their primary job. You guys are running the shop, making sure all the money comes in.
Yeah. So at this point in time now, we're a year in, or we're in our first year, second year. We operate about the same. We had phone lines now. We're not just on our cell phones that much. And we have a counter. We have this little counter that we're answering our phones on the counter. And we have 2 computers, and so people are coming in, and the guides that we've hired now are getting wetsuits, and they're getting people geared up, and I'm behind the counter like on the phone and trying to make a reservation, and somebody's crawling over me because the shop is so small, and they're trying to check somebody in, and we're signing liability forms, and we spent way too much money on the sound system that we put in. Like I put in like a $2,000 like stereo.
It's got to be cool when they walk in. They got to feel the vibe.
Yeah, so there's like music bumping.
Backstreet Boys is playing.
Yeah, like all Backstreet Boys. Yeah. It was just a bunch of young people having a good time.
Yeah. So at that point, are you delegating and you guys stop touring, or do you walk the?
No, I'm still touring.
So the new employees or part-time employees, you would take them on a tour yourself. Like, this is how you should do it. This is how you should explain to people.
Yeah.
Here's the route, that type of deal.
Yeah, and at that point, we had our now director of operations. Now he's director of operations. At that point, he's just a tour guide with us, our buddy. And some other friends who had come to work for us, who had worked at the old kayak shop. And we would just kind of rotate. You can't be behind the counter all day and answer phones all day, and you need to get out, especially because we have the ocean right there. I mean, you're looking at the ocean and you're taking people out on it. So you're kind of rotating through. Like I'll do, we'll get there at 7 in the morning, and then maybe I'll run the store until noon, and then I'll go out on a kayak tour at 12:30, and then maybe I'll do another one at 2:30, and then I get off the water and I wash wetsuits, and everybody's doing everything at this point.
So you're putting a lot of trust early on in somewhat new employees to run the counter, interact with customers, and
myself or my business partner would always be one of us would be inside of this.
Yeah, especially with cash changing hands.
A lot of cash.
A lot of young minimum wage employees. Yeah. I don't know if that's the best idea to have them handling.
Yeah.
So it seems like I was going to ask you kind of the aha moment, like holy shit, man, we really got something going on here. But it seemed like pretty early on, once all those Groupons and living social things sell, you're like, wow, like let's move. This is actually a business now.
Yeah.
And so you said earlier that the benchmark that you were hoping to reach was the $1,000 a day.
Yeah.
In that first season, are you already there?
We came very close that first year, very close to hitting that.
And then to the second year, I'm assuming you hit it the second year. Can you talk either in dollar numbers or year over year growth, what that scale looked like?
Yeah, I mean, I guess since it was so long ago, or not that long ago, 7 years ago, but we hit about 300,000 our first year, and then we hit 900,000 our second year.
Now, and you were able to, with the 300,000, pay yourselves, I'm assuming at that point, or was your overhead such that it was really thin?
No, we barely paid ourselves.
Yeah.
Really?
I was making minimum wage. If I was making less than minimum wage that first year still. Yeah, you're like, oh my God, we did all, look at this revenue.
I mean, 300 grand, you're selling the couch type of deal.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah.
But we had employees, and we had rent at that point, and we had
a lot of expenses,
phone bills, and we had all kinds of different stuff going on.
So going into second year, your year-over-year growth was what, approximately?
3x.
3x, yeah.
And at that point in time, were your margins such that you were able to
We started paying ourselves at
take
that point.
a decent income, a living wage?
Yeah, a living wage.
But
Yeah.
it wasn't something where you felt like I've got money, I'm really, cranking here.
No, we didn't have money, but we were paying ourselves enough that I could afford rent in San Diego and could go out to dinner.
And did it seem like each year an additional 3x was possible, or were you starting to max out?
It seemed like that. Yeah, the way we were growing, the rate we were growing at, it was incredible. It was so much fun. It still is so much fun. It's not like we're looking back at something that's over. We're still in the middle of it.
Yeah.
Now, it's kind of an interesting position to be in because you said you were capped at 12 tours a day.
Yeah, so what's interesting about what happened at that point in time is when we purchased the permit, we had 8 tours. Now, the next year, our second year of the business, we had to re-up with the city of San Diego our permit. So there's a request for proposal, an RFP, and we submitted our RFP as these young guys, and here's our experience, and here, look at the historical data. We gave them the historical data from the previous owners of the financials and everything. And we went from 8 tours to 4. They cut us in half.
Wow. So really the value of the license that you've purchased
was cut in half. Yeah. And we were just like, what are we going to do? Like, we just got cut in half. The bright side being those tour numbers are only for June, July, and August. So your busiest months, but we looked at it and we're like, all right, it's not the end of the world.
San Diego's still sunny in the other months. Yeah.
San Diego's still good. Yeah. We push as much as we can in the months that we don't have restrictions.
So there was no restrictions on number of tours per day outside of that?
Outside of that.
Okay, so you really didn't have a financial
And that's
cap.
just to keep the water not
It'd
too
be
crowded
crazy
during
out
summer.
there. It'd be insane. I
Yeah.
mean, if they let every company that has a permit and every surf camp that has a permit to do as
tours a
many as
day.
they want,
Yeah.
it would be insanity out there.
And in San Diego, you may have a really beautiful November, December, sometimes even January.
Oh yeah.
And so you'll see spikes when that's the case as well, right?
Our first few years, it was the midst of the drought, really. So we'd be out on Christmas and it's 80 degrees outside.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Any big mistakes that you make in those first couple of years that you look back on, like we really screwed up, or that was such a learning lesson, or
There were so many mistakes that we made.
just not catastrophic enough?
Just not, yeah, exactly. Not catastrophic enough to bring us down, but so many learning, so many lessons.
Any
hard.
close calls with like liability or somebody falling off a boat or employee getting in a fight with a customer out?
Yeah, I mean, we had people get injured, and we were always very, very nervous about it. This could be it. These people are going to sue us.
Yeah.
Thankfully,
Right.
nobody has. We do the best we can. We do tons of safety training. We take safety very, very seriously. I mean, you have these people's lives in your hands, essentially.
Yeah.
So we're always training, and we're always looking at that. But nothing from that standpoint. Really bad business decisions. I mean, we spent like 6 figures on a website, I think, in our 3rd year to custom build this website so we could sell apparel and book kayak tours and paddleboarding and do everything on one website. And we built it from the ground up. Terrible idea.
Yeah.
Open box solutions are so much better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But also at the same time, we operate on Shopify now, and there was no Shopify.
Yeah, it's true.
So
You had to.
Yeah, e-commerce was a big business for people that were developers prior to, but it's knocked that out. Can you briefly describe, right now we've talked about the kayak business. Mm-hmm. We haven't really talked about the apparel side.
Yeah.
When that came to be, who decided, and what that looks like now.
Yeah, so the apparel side, it was always kind of a dream of ours and a dream of mine from the beginning. You can't scale the tour business. Once you cap out at the amount of tours that you have, that's it. Your revenue is capped there. You're done. You have really good margins, but that's it. Apparel was an idea to all of these people that we see about 40,000 people a year now that come through our door. And we wanted to share with them our love of California, our love of the ocean, and really have them bring something home with them, but also share that love with the rest of the world and with the rest of the country.
And from a business standpoint, how do you capitalize on 40,000 people walking through your door?
Exactly, yeah. So we're looking at it that way. And we started 2011 would be our first, was our first t-shirt, hat, and tank top. With our old OEX logo on it. And I made some really bad stuff at that point. Really
So
bad.
relatively quickly, though, within like that first year, you guys are already starting to see the writing on the wall of the
Yeah, we know that
the
people are
scale
coming
cap.
in and we need to sell them
Capitalize
a t-shirt and a hat, or and sunscreen. We have sunscreen there, and we have, so we were retailers right off the bat.
Yeah.
And from a design standpoint, like I was doing all the design. I was learning how to design on YouTube. And
I remember that.
That's where it starts, yeah.
Yeah, you're on YouTube and you're looking at videos, and I'm making really bad t-shirts and really bad logos.
And you're printing those locally.
We're printing them locally, and we're using, American apparel, using cheap blanks and starting there.
And you're still in the corner of the guy's shop at this point, and you just have a couple of racks?
No,
So
we're
500 square foot?
500 square feet, so
square
now
foot.
it's all you.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
yeah.
That's cool. So what's the favorite part of the business that you're currently in? Because it seems like that whole story, kayak tours, everyday California apparel, that's still the current construction of where we are now.
Yeah,
too.
I mean, we'll kind of jump here,
Yeah.
but my favorite part is the brand now. My favorite part had always kind of been that. My dream was to run the brand side, the apparel side, and that is my favorite part. We're in over 100 stores across the country. We're shipping products to Canada, South Africa. We had a meeting yesterday up at Universal Studios for the possibility of opening up an Everyday California store at Universal City Walk.
Wow.
With our Bear logo,
Very cool.
12, 15 foot high, 3-dimensional.
So I'll make you go back a little bit. At what point does it move from the 500 square foot, people are just buying shirts here and there, to wow, we can actually scale this to be in more stores? And
We did 27 tours in one day in 2012, I believe. 2012, 2013. We did 27 tours in one day.
Wow.
And we realized, because our cap, it was like the weekend before our restrictions were supposed to
you
go
had
in.
to get it
So
in
we
while
had
you
to get
could,
as many
yeah.
people out as we could. And that's when we knew that we had to open up another store. We needed a bigger location.
Just due to the foot traffic of coming in.
We're looking at 562 square feet, and you do the math, 27 tours, 20 people per tour.
Jeez.
Oh, wow.
I mean, we had people falling out of, climbing out of windows, and our entire sidewalk was just
The fire marshal starting to
loaded with
come over.
people. I mean, it looked like, it looked like a concert was going on out there, and our neighbors were not happy about just the volume we were pushing.
It's a great problem.
It was a good problem to have, so we went out and we got an SBA loan, and we opened up about a 1,300 square foot store across the street, directly across the street.
And when, like that day where the 27 people come in, you're flipping merchandise at that point too.
Yeah,
'cause
you're
you have
flipping
the shirts.
merchandise, you're renting wetsuits. I mean, people are renting wetsuits, and we're just turning and burning them. I mean, we didn't have enough. Like, you go on a tour, we get your wetsuit, and we'd wash it real quick, we'd hang it up, and it's dripping wet, and you got to rent it to the next person, though, because the water's still cold.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And can you briefly describe for anybody watching that doesn't understand SBA loans, how that came about, and maybe terms if you can?
Yeah, we needed an SBA. There was no way that we were going to be able to build out our new store without money. I mean, we were making money, but we weren't making enough. We didn't have a ton of money in the bank. We didn't have enough cash to do like a store build out. So we kind of talked to our accountants at the time, and the banks we were with, and we were able to secure an SBA loan that was enough to do the build out. And we also took part of that money to pay for and buy out the contract that we had talked about.
Oh, wow.
So we got out of the contract early because, I would still be paying them a gross percentage of receipts had we not paid them out early. So we offered them a sizable check and
renegotiated
the terms and bought them out.
And was that process pretty easy? You put together a proposal of what you're planning on doing with the money and your last X number of years financials?
Definitely not easy. It took forever.
Nightmare.
It took forever.
Because they were pretty happy with the current situation, and you had to kind of convince them otherwise? Or?
Well, for SBA to get the funding.
To get the funding for the SBA it took forever.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it was a long process, maybe now it feels, back then it felt
was a big deal,
yeah, back then it felt like it was, the longest thing ever. I mean, I'm more used to it now that we've been in business for so long. I know how long things take.
So what, 6 months, a year?
6 months probably.
Okay.
Yeah.
But that was really the first traditional funding
that was the
that you took on, and the stated purpose for that capital was 100% build out.
Build out.
Okay.
Yeah, to build a new store.
So
here's the amount of money we're doing. Here's the volume we're doing. We do not have enough room,
So the new store opens, and from the retail standpoint, you guys are doing really well, being able to capitalize on the people that are coming in.
Yeah.
That's my question: is at what point? How long did it take where you're like, we can sell this other places, we can sell it online, we can expand outside of just our footprint?
Years. I mean, it was a lot of learning. I mean, we were really not good.
Yeah.
You're just going to a local screen printer and you're buying blanks and that's it.
Yeah.
Really bad logos. It wasn't until about 2014, 2015 that I was really able to kind of step back from what we were doing, and really actually pull myself out of the
Day-to-day,
retail day-to-day situation. 2015 for sure. Focus on what I wanted to do, focusing on making our products better, focus on branding and website development and everything like that. And that's when it really started to take a turn.
So prior to that, 2010 and 2015, are we talking 16-hour days every day where you had a point where it was a little bit more normal schedule, or?
No, it was still
every
6
time.
days a week, working like crazy. We would take Sundays off because I want to watch football or whatever it may be.
Exactly.
And is that 365, or this is generally during the busy months?
365, pretty much, yeah. But we still had fun, and we would take Mondays off a lot as well. Go out and play golf on Mondays. Early on, we even we just left some of the younger guys who worked with us. Basically, just left them the keys to the store for over a week, probably 10 days, and we drove from San Diego to Cabo.
Interesting.
And was that the first time that you had like real delegation of saying like,
yeah,
we're out of here, it's on you?
That was the first time, and I want to say that was probably 2000. That was pretty quickly, 2012.
And did it go okay? How was that experience?
I mean, they didn't burn the place down.
Yeah.
Okay.
Our Yelp reviews suffered a little bit for a week, but what are you going to do? We took a vacation.
So David asked earlier what the favorite part of the business that you're in is.
Mm-hmm.
What is your least favorite thing about the business that you're in? The least favorite aspect?
The least favorite.
Whether it's, I don't know, I guess managing people or clients or the retail industry or anything.
The least favorite part for me has got to be dealing with the insurance part of it and the liability part of it, and having to deal with all of that kind of back end paperwork and everything that you have.
Yeah.
I mean, every business owner has to deal with that. So it's hard to say that that's that's the worst part, but for us, it's a whole nother level of scrutiny and a whole nother level of
legal and administrative.
Legal, yeah.
Okay.
Legal and administrative, for sure.
Now, how often do you have to get this license renewed?
We're on a 5-year term
Okay.
right now.
So at least you're not doing it every year or anything.
Yeah. Now our RFP is about that thick. I mean, you're looking at 300-page document.
So it's still not a given every year that they'll just say, oh, these guys are doing well
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, from a size comparison, our RFP is about an Elon Musk book size.
Okay.
It's
Wow.
pretty big.
Yeah.
It's pretty big.
Speaking of books, was there any books during that period that you read that kind of turned that light on for you in terms of scale or development or anything like that?
Not one in particular, especially during that time. I think during that time I had my head down, and if I wasn't working, I wasn't really into like reading. Now I'm trying. I do as much as I can.
I try
and read about a book a week right now.
Wow.
But I have much more. I have the ability to,
Step back.
step back a little bit and think and process and strategize and do things that are helping our business to grow into the future. Then I was working inside of the business. You're not working the retail floor and doing tours and doing all this and having this, 12-hour day, 13-hour day, and then all of a sudden wanting to go home and pull out,
The CAA book.
It's the
Good to
CAA
great,
book,
yeah.
pull out a 500-page novel and start reading.
get
I was
some
just
sleep.
like, you're trying to sleep and, yeah.
I think that's a common misconception with entrepreneurs. I'm sure you've heard this a lot. It pisses me off. You're so lucky.
Mm-hmm.
You're so lucky to be able to be out on the beach and do what you love or what have
Yeah.
you. But that 5-year stretch of those 6-day weeks and just grinding every single day gets you to that meeting at Universal.
Yeah.
And you're so lucky. Oh my God, you got such a big break. Like again, going back to acting. No,
Yeah.
it's not a big break. It's that the 7th of July back in 2012 when I slept in the 500 square foot shop.
Exactly. Exactly. And those nights where you stay up and you're just, especially early on, and you're so worried,
Stress, man.
The stress.
Yeah.
I mean, I started growing gray hair
Yeah.
like way too young, and the stress just takes you over. It's just,
Brad and I used to have a whiteboard out of like a 3-month period. Like, at what point, if we don't sell another dime, do we run out of money and out of business? And we did that for a year and a half, maybe.
We were always we were always a few months away from being out of money.
Yeah.
Aren't you always? I mean, we still have to operate that way.
But
especially-
at some point, we didn't have like those weekly meetings. Like, all right, so at what point are we out of business essentially?
Yeah.
And it was kind of a funny switch where it's like, all right, we don't have to play that game anymore.
Yeah.
We have cash in the bank now. But that's I think that's the stress or the mind game you play with yourself for so many years. I don't think people understand.
Yeah, totally. And that's the hardest part. And that's where, you eventually, if you've made it far enough, you don't have to worry too much anymore. But I still have plenty of sleepless nights where I'm thinking about things, because as we grow and scale, it just feels like everything gets notched up a little bit. The more stores that we open in, the more inventory we purchase, the more things are going well for a retailer and for a brand. If I want to sell 100,000 T-shirts, I need to produce 100,000 T-shirts, and so I need to pay for 100,000 T-shirts, and that gets stressful.
Yeah, 2 questions on that point. I'm fascinated by your business because we got 24 kayak tours ready to roll, and there's thunder and rain the next day that you weren't expecting.
Yeah.
Did you guys get lucky in that first summer with because I mean we just had a year where the rain was incredible out here.
We got very lucky.
Because
If
you would have had this year on your first year, you might have been.
We might have been out of business,
Yeah.
to be completely honest with you.
Yeah.
And myself and my business partner talk about this a lot. We started an ocean adventure and lifestyle brand in the heart of one of California's biggest droughts.
Yeah.
For us, it worked.
Yeah.
For us, it was like luck. I mean, the sun was shining.
I mean, Mother Nature is essentially your third business partner because it's like at any point.
And that's the thing that's very hard. And the reason why we've spent a lot of time on the brand, and I mean, we love the brand, but that was why we have it, is because you're right.
The control.
We're heading into the weekend, and if it's gonna rain this weekend, you have to cancel 200 people who want to get out on the water, and you're gonna refund a lot of them, and they're not going to come in and purchase any of our clothing. They're not going to rent any of our other equipment, and it's just kind of a lot of people who are just in town for the weekend maybe, and that's it.
Yeah.
That was your
So
1
we're
cent to grab 'em.
very, very much relied on Mother Nature, and definitely had we not had some of those sunny November, December, January, February, we would probably be out of business. We came close to going out of business. We've come close a few times.
Because of that, because of the Mother Nature aspect, or
Mother Nature, because of really just trying to pay for everything, you know.
That's a good
Scale,
segue, I think. So we wanted to know, looking back from day one, what was the most challenging either event or like a particular time period in the history of the business?
2012, 2013, probably winter, right around there, I would say, was very, very challenging because we had grown so quickly, and our expenses had definitely risen. Nothing astronomical, I mean, especially compared to nowadays. But at the time, heading into that winter and not having that runway that you guys talked about, we just barely had enough money in the bank. And we were very close to running out of cash.
and again,
Yeah.
you try to do projections, but you have a week of rain, and that just like that can do it. That can be it.
That's
yeah.
it. That's it. Yeah.
So that was the
So, you know, I think David and I are experiencing when you start growing and you start having a few years in the books, and you may not be able to project everything, but you start to develop a system. You start to bring on employees. You start to
Yeah.
have departments and training. How did that culture of everyday California take shape? Is that something that you guys have stated core values? Is there a training program? Is there like a seminar upon hiring? Can you maybe just talk about your core values and culture
Yeah.
now that you've been in business for several years?
Absolutely. There's now there are standard operating procedures. There is training that every one of our guys go through, every one of our employees. Really, I think the thing that builds our culture is nearly every single person at the company starts as a kayak tour guide. They start on the beach. And that goes for our now director of sales, our director of operations, our managers, our retail people, pretty much everybody in the company. If you work for us at one point in time, you worked on the beach.
Did that
You
occur
went through-
naturally, or did you look at that and say, we want everyone to understand all parts of the business, so we want to work them up? Or was it longer term employees rose to the top and became...
It occurred naturally. Okay. Yeah, it was that longer term employees stuck around and were rewarded with a different job. Were rewarded with getting into a department. I mean, we can't even call them departments to this day. But towards where their strong suits were, or towards what they wanted to do, whether it be sales, whether it be marketing and branding, whether it be retail, whatever it is.
So I'm always interested to hear when people come up with a concept or wind up with a concept, whether it was started out as a concept and then was built around it, or if it occurred organically. Because in Good to Great, they talk a lot about Wells Fargo and their training program, which is considered world class. But for most employees at Wells Fargo, they want you to start as a teller and then work your way all the way up. And I just wonder if those things started organically. So it's interesting to hear, because almost all of the processes that we have now was always looking back at what has worked, and then saying we have to build around this. Because
I think more so, you find out where you screwed up. Like, we need to have a process for that, so we don't do that anymore. So you almost don't know that you need a process until something happens sometimes.
Now we have a decent training program that's pretty robust and people get here, but it wasn't like we were saying we're bringing on employees, we probably ought to have a training program. It was because we'd bring on people that would totally fail because they had zero structure. It was like, sit next to this guy, and that guy didn't know how to train, and then people would be like, not really what I thought coming here.
Yeah, I mean, ours is just, it was naturally occurring. And our business is still, it is and it isn't complicated. I mean, when you think about it. When I look at it, there are a lot of moving parts. There's a lot going on as an owner. But at the end of the day, we work on the beach and we sell T-shirts. How hard can it be? You know, and I keep having to pull myself back down sometimes when I'm stressed about what's going on and all these moving parts and shipping product and manufacturing and everything that we're into now. Look, we do kayak tours, we surf, we sell T-shirts. You know, we make flip-flops now. We sell hats.
And that probably helps too with the e-com background too. Like, we're not managing somebody's $300 million hedge fund, where you can really screw some things up and screw over some people. So that probably makes you sinner. So you start with you and your business partner. That first summer, you guys have to go to 15 employees. 7 years later now, where are you guys now in terms of employees and scale?
In the middle of the summer, we can have up to 70 employees.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's a lot of moving. It's a lot of people.
And what's your turnover there? Are you always getting new like grads and stuff like that? Or?
Yeah,
Okay.
for the most part, it's mostly new hires every summer. We have a core group that sticks around throughout the year.
What's your core group as far as numbers?
I'd say about 30,
Okay,
25 people probably.
gotcha.
And that's a core group that's been around for a couple of years. And
So even at minimum wage, though, that can be a real draw for payroll. So if you've got
our
really,
payroll is massive.
if you've got 3 months of really bad weather, that can hurt.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then how do you determine how much runway you need? Is there a certain dollar amount that you just know that you have to stay in the bank all the time? Or a revolving credit line? How do you keep from having 3 months of terrible weather putting you out of business?
Yeah, we try and keep a runway in the bank, about a 3-month runway in the bank, and then we are consistently working with the banks to increase our line of credit. That's been a nightmare since the beginning. It's always a challenge.
And this is through the SBA as well, or trying to find other lending?
Other lending, like we have a line of credit through our bank now, and just trying to continually increase.
And that's something where and this happens a lot of Shark Tank, where you have the purchase orders, it looks like, but you're still relying, again, going back to that type A personality, you're relying on somebody to help fulfill those, even though you already have, you've done your part.
We have currently we have a very large purchase order for next year, and we need to finance it, and it's a job. It's a whole nother job trying to finance.
It's sales.
Exactly.
You got to go and sell yourself.
We're selling ourselves to the banks, even though we've already have the purchase orders.
But part of my ignorance, because you look at Shark Tank, and once you see, once they say I already have the purchase orders, they all light up and go, I'm in.
Yeah.
But it seems like.
But they're trying to buy part of the company.
That's true. Yep.
We don't have any interest in selling any part of our company. We're happy where we're at.
So with the purchase orders there, though, the bank is still, again, part of my ignorance, but they're still worried about if you're going to end up holding your end of the bargain, essentially. So you have to
and these
pitch
banks
that.
aren't individual investors. They can't just write the check hoping it goes okay. There's a myriad of hoops that you have to go through, because it'd be very easy to present somebody with a purchase order that's total BS, and it's really just funding because otherwise you're out of business. So I think, especially since 2008, in general, for personal and commercial loaning, the processes have gone from really simple to extreme to be able to give sizable chunks of money.
Yeah.
How do you deal with that challenge? Because again, I think we all have issues with we want to try to control as much of our destiny as possible. And when you're kind of in that same room with them where they're kind of dictating really your success in the immediate future, how do you deal with that on a day-to-day?
We have grown pretty slowly. We've done, I think, a very good job of not overextending ourselves. We've paid cash primarily for everything we've done. So when you look at us as a brand and as a retailer, we've been very safe, I would say.
Yeah.
And we definitely have stretched ourselves, but we haven't taken on any venture. We haven't taken on any debt. Besides the SBA, which is, in my opinion, is good debt, and most people would say that. So it's really about slowly and methodically building and not growing too fast, letting it organically grow, rather than going out and borrowing a ton of money.
Putting all your eggs in one basket, yeah.
Now, how do you balance, because I think we are constantly, David and I, going back and forth on the difference between that safely growing and potentially missing opportunity for capital injections where, maybe you still only own 75% or 50% of your business, but the whole pie is so much bigger that bottom line, it's way more successful. How do you make those decisions?
That's interesting. So we actually sold part of our intellectual property and part of our trademarks, or copyrights actually, to a Cherokee Global Brands. Now, Cherokee Global Brands is a publicly traded apparel conglomerate that specializes in licensing. And that was an event that happened in 2015, late 2015, they approached us about our branding and our logo and our name, Everyday California.
And that's really the IP that you're referring to, is the look of the shirts and the designs and the logo and the name.
It's the logo and the name.
Okay.
And they own Tony Hawk, they own Liz Lang, they own Side Out, they own the Cherokee brand, they own High Tech Boots, they own Magnum Boots, they own a bunch of very well-known companies, and they're publicly traded, so we're talking massive scale. We had danced around having people invest in the company, selling a percentage of the company. When this deal came about, that was originally what they wanted to do, was invest into our company and buy a percentage of the company as a whole. We weren't interested in selling off any portion of our adventure side, because the adventure side is, from a margin standpoint, is phenomenal. We didn't need anybody's help, to run more kayak tours.
And
or more
a capital
paddleboarding.
injection isn't really going to get you to larger scale than you're at anyway.
Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt. So right now, though, both of those companies are under the same umbrella.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. What we ended up negotiating with Cherokee was selling off a portion of our IP to them. So essentially, they bought our logo and name, and they purchased the brand to be able to sell it into mass retail, sell it into major department stores all over the world. What we held on to was online sales and individual Everyday California stores, so we can open up Everyday California stores anywhere we'd like. And then specialty retail, which is something that we're doing now, with kind of the help of Cherokee. And specialty retail meaning surf shops, skate shops. We have a large deal with flip-flop shops, which has locations all over the world.
So, but Cherokee's, I guess, where they would focus their attention is getting Everyday California into large national or potentially global retailers.
Exactly.
And that's what they're historically good at?
And historically, that's what they've done. Yeah, so Cherokee, the brand Cherokee was essentially the house brand at Target for over 15 years, 20 years. Something along that, I'm not sure.
So they buy a part of your IP and then give you an inject and then go away, or are you getting a percentage?
We have a percentage, so it's a royalty agreement, which you talk about Shark Tank, and something they talk about a lot.
Yeah.
Well, we have a licensing deal where we get a royalty and we're paid on a percentage of sales.
Very cool.
And thus far, have you felt like that was a successful partnership?
It's going well. It's definitely something. It's a learning experience for us. Having a publicly traded company as a partner is different. I mean, you come to my office and no one's wearing shoes. Everyone's wearing board shorts and we're hanging out and there's music playing and there's sand everywhere, and our designer may have just gotten out of the water or whatever. And you go to their office and it's a high rise and there's cubicles and everyone's wearing suits and it's just very different.
So let's go a little rapid fire here. So we can probably talk for 9 hours.
Yeah.
We'll get a part 2 in here at some point. What does it mean to you to be an entrepreneur?
It's a life. Now that I'm an entrepreneur, I couldn't do anything else. If Everyday California ended tomorrow, I would be at home scribbling on a notepad trying to figure out what my next business was.
I have nightmares still, like dreams about like having us running out of money and business goes under and I'm like wiping tables again. I have that like every 3 months.
Yeah.
So that means like it's in the back of my head. I don't think about it daily, but there's some stress there.
And I'm always curious, like what do you think is the difference between a business owner and an entrepreneur? Because I think there's a lot of people out there that own a small business, and then there's somebody that's an entrepreneur. And I think seeing how you took an opportunity for kayak licensing and has turned it into a brand that is having meetings with Universal Studios and working with publicly traded companies, that's a difference from me on the outside, seeing somebody that clearly looking at multiple opportunities for different revenue streams. What do you see as like the main difference between a business owner and entrepreneur?
Isn't that crazy? Like the small business owner, when people say that, oh, you're a small business owner, it almost upsets me.
Yeah.
I'm like,
it's kind of
I
defeating.
am not a small business owner. Like it's like, why is that so synonymous? Yeah, an entrepreneur.
When I think small business, I think like I don't know, a family-owned deli that's making $90,000 a year. That's just
I think of that same thing. I think that's what separates.
Right.
And if you own that family-owned deli and it's the best deli in town, that's awesome. Like I have the utmost respect for you. And that's a small business owner. But an entrepreneur has that deli and they brand it so that they can open another one across town. And then they start thinking about franchising because it's a deli and you're in food and you can franchise this. And they look at the larger picture, and it goes back to that: are you working in the business, or are you working on the business? Right. And I think being an entrepreneur means you're thinking about working on the business, not in it making the sandwiches.
And it seems to me the reason why you have been successful and the prior owner was in such a mess that they were looking to fire sale is really probably that entrepreneurial spirit of thinking of how to maximize and really go all in.
No, you know what, to be honest with you, they're entrepreneurs as well.
Okay.
And they're smart guys. I give them all the credit in the world. But they're also a bit of a learning lesson for us. They grew very quickly. They opened up multiple locations, I think 7 stores at the height. And it's a bit of a learning lesson that anything can happen. The nightmares that we have can happen, and it happened to a lot of people in 2008. The reason why, 2008 through 2010, why we're entrepreneurs now is because of what happened. I think that's something that I think that separates our generation, and probably why we have those late night cold sweats, because we remember and we've seen it happen to our parents, and we've seen it happen to other business owners. So we're looking at what kind of a runway do I have? What's my out? You think my buddy will hire me to wait tables if everything goes down?
Yeah. What do you think the common misconception is about being an entrepreneur?
I think the term entrepreneur is thrown around so much nowadays.
That's on Instagram.
Right?
Yeah.
I feel like it is like everybody who's a freelancer will claim that they're an entrepreneur.
If you make $300 a month on the side and you're hustling, you're an entrepreneur.
But I think there is a big difference between that. It's like a small unit and really growing a company.
Yeah. I mean, if that's a misconception, there it is right there for sure.
Absolutely.
I wonder what the dictionary definition. We should look that up. What is the definition?
We don't have a dictionary up there.
That's
we got everything else.
Yeah. So what do you hope to accomplish next? He talked a lot about you're always looking about building the business and looking at the next big thing.
Yeah.
When we look at everyday California, 5, 10, 15 years down the road, what do you think that looks like?
Man, 10 years down the road, 15 years down the road, I'm still looking at those other brands out there that I wanted to compete with years ago. I'm looking at Hurley. I'm looking at Quicksilver. I'm looking at Billabong. I'm also looking at some of the up-and-coming brands like Aviator Nation and Marine Layer, brands that are doing really cool things. When I see ourselves down the road, I want to be a major player in the retail and branding space. I want to be making clothing that people are stoked on. Like, I love that feeling, and maybe you guys have it, maybe you don't, but when you go out and you buy like a new shirt, and you're going to wear it out to dinner, or you're going to wear it into the office, or whatever it is, and it makes you feel like you're like confident all of a sudden. Like you walk in and you're like, I'm confident. Like I look good. I feel good.
Look good, feel good.
Yeah, and I want to make that kind of clothing, and I want it to last, and I want people to love it. I want to be your favorite, T-shirt. In 15 years, my favorite thing is seeing people wearing our clothing. Or when I talk to somebody and they're like, "Oh, what do you do?" I'm like, "I work at Everyday California." When they know what it is, and so I'm hoping in 15 years that most people know what it is.
And would you prefer to be still running the business in 15 years, or is any part of this gearing it up and getting it prepared for some sort of exit?
Currently, I'm not really looking at an exit right now. I enjoy what we're doing. I would like to not be a day-to-day. I mean, wouldn't that be the dream? That I get to run like the creative department or the apparel side, and I get to talk about the direction and the vision and help make cool products, but not be in there getting my hands dirty, that would be great. But I would love to be a part of the company. I mean, the company's so much fun.
Right.
You know?
So if you were to go public, or you were to get fully acquired by a public company, and you had the total choice to be really involved in the direction of the company, or to step back and simply be a major shareholder or board member, would you choose that active role?
Right now, I would choose that active role. I love it. And I'm so passionate about what we're doing. And I'm so protective of what's going on. I mean, I get nervous when we launch a new product. You know, I don't like launching products unless it's the best it can be. You know, this isn't 2011 when we're making blanks on American Apparel anymore. You know, we've got a lot more that I want us to do, and I want to stand for something.
It's about family a little bit. So, not married, no kids.
No kids.
How is, as you build this company over the last 7 years and going through the dating scene and that whole thing, where do you see, what are some of your goals family-wise, and how has that affected you during the growth of the business?
Yeah, I mean, this has definitely affected me from a social standpoint. I mean, you're married to your business. And yeah, on a personal standpoint, I would love to meet somebody and get married one of these days and have kids and do all of that. But I've been so ingrained in what we're doing and building this brand and building this company that has been my focus. So I think it definitely makes it a little bit harder. But if anybody's out there,
Sorry, you've heard it here, folks.
What time do you wake up in the morning? Do you have a routine, or is this kind of?
I'm a late night person.
Yeah, me too.
I'm a late night guy.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm up till 1 a.m., you know, and I do a lot of work. I do a lot of work at night for some reason.
My employees give me hell all the time because they get dings at 2:30 in the morning of my, hey, I'm thinking this Thursday we do that, you know.
Yeah.
That's when my mind is racing.
And my mind does the same thing. It's good and bad. You know, I woke up earlier when we first started the business because we were the ones down at the beach early in the morning. So there's nothing you could do
Sunrise,
about it. Nowadays, I'm more of, you know, I'm up at 8:30, sometimes a little bit later, and I go into the office. I kind of work straight through. I don't like doing breaks. I don't like taking long lunches or anything. I'm more of like a power through the day, work as hard as I can in the office from 9 to 4. Just, you know, I feel like I'm efficient. Like, you just need to be very efficient. And then I've made it a point to schedule in the gym every day, 4:30. So I leave the office 4 o'clock. All my employees know I'm out 4 o'clock at the gym at 4:30. And then after that, I head home, and I always pop the laptop back open after that, work a couple more hours.
I deal with that too, because I feel there's so much BS out there on work-life balance. But I did the same thing you do, and sometimes I wonder when I pop that laptop open, like, am I being social enough?
Yeah.
Should I be doing this? Like, am I not delegating enough where I have to do this? But it's kind of that weird, you know, spacey, because there's always something you can be doing for your business, and always something you can be getting better. So.
Yeah, and especially as you grow and you start to scale, how much should you be working? I mean, that's the question, that, like, how much is enough? How much is too much? How much are your employees working?
And him and I talk about all the time. Like, our office opens at 8:30 technically. Anytime I'm not here at 8:30, I feel guilty. And anytime I leave before 5, I feel guilty. Even if I worked all night the night before, or I worked 8 days in a row. It's a very weird thing.
Yeah, I think that's just getting used to it.
Yeah.
You know, and becoming confident in that schedule, and knowing that you're doing everything you can, and knowing that the people around you appreciate that, you know, you are the founder and you are working on it, and you are thinking about the business at all times. And that's something that's hard, I think, to convey. But I think if you have a good corporate and company culture, that people do understand that. And, you know, I like to think that my employees know that I'm worried about them, and know that I'm thinking about them, and know that I'm thinking about the business, whether or not I'm in there at 7:30 in the morning, or I'm in there at 10 a.m., you know, whether I leave at 8 p.m. or whether I leave at 3 p.m. And a lot of times it's hard too, because, you know, you just said you traveled to, you guys were in Chicago and then Connecticut, and you're in New York, and, you know, I was in LA this week. I also was supposed to go to Las Vegas for a show, and just because you're not in the office doesn't mean you're not working.
Yeah.
Well, and I think it is hard for a lot of people because in the early stages, it's all about just hustling, and you have to work so many hours because you don't have any revenue, and so it's terrifying. So every time that you're not working, it means that you're not growing the business. At a certain point, I think there has to be that shift too, when you're not working in the business, you're working on the business, to take that time to read. Is it more valuable to the future of the company that I read a book on business? Probably, than it is for me to be in here and grinding and sitting and writing emails. So I think really understanding that part of your job as a business owner is to think about the future of the company, to read other things, to write down your thoughts. Because if you're constantly checking emails and sending emails and delegating tasks, then you're still focused in the business, and it's hard to get that bigger picture. But there is a lot of guilt associated with that.
That's a good
when
word,
4 years in a row, especially I think in a partnership. Because, if I pull in at 8:48 and David's car's here, but if I'm the first one here and no one's in and I'm the one putting in the alarm, there's still that certain sense of like, I got in first. Or if I'm the last one to leave, there's still that sense when it doesn't mean production is better.
Doesn't
mean
anything.
It
doesn't mean anything. I don't do that. I try not to. I don't do that to myself anymore. I used to do that. I've gotten to a place where I know that my time, I need to do something different. And I think you're right. Guilt is the biggest factor when you start to have employees and when you start to see somewhat of a success. Is you feel guilty if you're not that person putting in the effort.
And I admitted this on our last podcast. I straight up admitted, like, I still feel guilt sometimes delegating tasks. Like, hey, can you buy these books for the set for me, like, by the end of today? There's still it's weird, but it's a small bit of guilt. I think he's dealt with it a little bit better. But then you look at it, like, to your point, paying hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars in payroll every single year, and you know how that big, I mean, you're allowed to do that. Like, you pay people to do stuff, and I still deal with that too. But I think entrepreneurship and guilt, I think that's definitely a key word.
We should probably discuss that further. Entrepreneurial guilt. I mean, that's definitely a thing. I mean, right now, I'm here with you guys. I took half of the day out of the office to be here with you guys, and I didn't explain to anybody where I was going because honestly, I don't have to.
He just does podcasts and screws around.
Right, exactly.
True,
But this type of stuff is important. This is another touch point. We might have somebody watch this who's, most of the people who watch this have no idea what Everyday California is. They have never heard of us before. They don't know who I am, and they could probably give a shit. But now maybe they do. Maybe we'll sell a few more T-shirts. Maybe we'll book a few more kayak tours. Or maybe we'll meet somebody who wants to invest in the company or who wants to fund us and take us to the next level.
This will make the documentary in 15 years when you acquire Hurley and take over the world.
Great.
So.
Or you guys will hire me. I'll just come work here. I know because I love sports. I'm just gonna stay here. When this is done, I'm going to hang out and watch TV.
We're looking for people to cut gifts on Sundays for football season. If you want to work a 15-hour shift.
Perfect.
Well, I get to watch football though.
It's true.
All right.
Yeah. Well, I think on that note, we really appreciate all the time. Hopefully, it definitely helped. I think the goal for us too on this whole show is if there is entrepreneurs out there, like hearing those stories, hearing the grind, hearing the guilt, just making sure that people out there understand, like it's not as easy as everybody makes it out to be. So.
And I think in a certain sense is that it's hard, and people really understand that, and we want to hear about the challenges. But sometimes I do think people hear the term entrepreneur, and they think that unless you're a developer and you're creating the next billion-dollar product in Silicon Valley,
I think social network,
that it's not achievable. So they look at all of the entrepreneurship is so focused on Silicon Valley. I always think it's exciting to talk to people who started out with a very simple concept of kayak tours,
2 kayaks
and are now building it into a brand and are being successful as entrepreneurs, and it's not based on a social network or
we're not building an app here. We're not developing an app here. We're selling product.
Well, 21st episode. We appreciate you joining us for our 21st birthday, I guess you can say.
That's it. 21.
Chris Lynch, Everyday California. Thanks again, man.
Thanks, guys.
Appreciate it.